Welcome. This is Kathy Sipple, and this is day 4 of How is Your Social Media Working for You? We've been looking at a different platform each day of the week. Monday we looked at websites and blogs. Tuesday we looked at Facebook. Yesterday, Wednesday, we looked at Twitter. And today we're going to dive into LinkedIn. I think that LinkedIn sometimes is looked at as merely, a resume online and not taken as a really serious social media site like it should be. And I'm hoping we can kind of change those perceptions today by really going deep in looking at some various profiles and just seeing, what are we seeing as a potential employer, as a potential joint venture partner. Oh, let me show you my screen. There we go. Hopefully you guys have visual now. So Tacey Fletcher is on the call, and I believe she is in the job search mode, and she has volunteered that we can look at her profile to just kind of evaluate. I think going through examples of what's going well, maybe where is there still an area for improvement, will help everybody understand how to use these tools more critically and more effectively for yourselves. So first thing I want to say is I noticed she's got this nice banner going on. LinkedIn was really, I think, the last to adopt having some kind of visual, wallpaper or background, whatever. That's, I think, been added just in the last 6 to 12 months. I don't think I've even done mine yet, but I think that's nice. Ideally, it probably goes with your theme a little bit to kind of help, make you more memorable. So you can definitely use what you've got going there, and a sky is definitely part of nature, so if that works for you, that would be just fine. One other thing I might suggest is you could even do a banner type header using a free tool like Canva, which we've discussed on previous sessions. So you could do something like a Facebook cover. I believe the size is fairly similar. And if you wanted to use something that maybe fit even a little bit more in with nature, and kind of branded you, something like that. I just think it's an example to make yourself more memorable. So if you wanted to include like a little headline, not noodle markets, here's one that's a little bit nature, but not probably exactly what you'd be looking for. That'd be the only thing I might recommend. It's not a total necessity. Again, LinkedIn, this is still pretty new, but I like that you've done it. Now next I go to the profile picture, and I'm glad you've got something there, and it definitely shows you engaged in your work, being really involved working with kids, and I think that's great. The one thing it would not do for me is it wouldn't really allow me to pick you out of a lineup if I'm at a live event and I wanted to say, where is Tacey Fletcher? How could I meet her? Showing the back of your head or side profile, I would kind of know that you had blonde hair, but that's about it. So if there was a photo that showed you interacting with kids but also showed your face so that you could be recognizable, that would be my preference. Normally for most people, I think just a headshot and showing as large as possible so that you are identifiable is great, but I really like what you've done here by putting it into the work that you're looking for. All right, so next I go to the what's called the professional headline, and a lot of people just simply kind of type in whatever's on their business card right here, because on LinkedIn it's not all that obvious that you've actually got about 2.5 lines of text to play with. And so I like that Tacey has kind of had a little bit of fun with it. Interpretive naturalist extraordinaire, and I'm currently in the market for full-time year-round employment in nonprofit arena. I think that's probably fine. I'm wondering if there's anything more that you could do. Let me think about that. I'm going to look at that. If there's a way to spell out and, I mean, this is so tiny, but I know you get into the nitpicky stuff. Something about just having a comma and then the ampersand. I don't know. I'm going to come back to that. There's something I feel like we can do to even make that a little bit more powerful, but not bad. I like that you are saying interpretive naturalist extraordinaire. That makes you memorable, and quickly identifying that you're in the job search mode. Okay, so let's scroll on down a little bit. Okay, here we go. All right, so contact info. Okay, here's an easy one that you can quickly adjust. On LinkedIn, they give you the ability to claim a custom URL. And what I mean by that is you could be on LinkedIn and just be linkedin.com/ I think it's IN/ Fletcher, rather than Tacey Fletcher 2B79711EN. So the way to do that, to make that change, is just to make sure you're in edit mode on profile. So you go up to profile and then just get into edit profile. And once you're there, you're going to see that every little piece of information has, a little pencil next to it. So where it's got, let's see, here we go, right down here. Contact info, last piece of information, you just click on that little pencil, and that will take you to a box where you can claim that custom URL. Okay, so it's kind of down over here. You just do enhance your personal brand by creating a public URL. You click that pencil. I've already got one. I'm just linkedin.com/IN/Kathy Sipple. So go ahead and pick something memorable. And again, that just lets people find you more easily. Usually I'd say, go for your name. But, if you want to use it to further brand yourself, sometimes people do that. Or if you have a really common name, and your name isn't available, sometimes you have to get a little bit more creative that way too. But that's an easy fix. Okay, and then company website. Let's see what you got going on there. Okay, so this is in pause. Okay, I'm not sure why this is under Michiana Electronics. Maybe you can help me understand that. It's maybe a little confusing. Maybe that's just who's volunteered to host those past issues or something. I know that you wrote for those, and so that's probably why you've got that. Michiana Electronics. Okay. All right. Looks like that link is not quite working. So what I would do is, instead of calling it company website, because clearly if you're not the owner of that company or you're not working at that company, what I would do again is go to edit profile and go on back into contact information. Okay, and where am I here? Websites. All right, go ahead and click that little pencil. And this might seem a little counterintuitive, but instead of leaving it on company website, go ahead and choose other. And then when you do that, you're allowed to type in whatever text you'd like to show up. So what I would recommend is perhaps to say other and then put, in pause newsletter, something like that, or, newsletter editing examples or whatever will fit. It doesn't give you a ton of room, but, something that's just a little bit more descriptive. Instead of using all three that seem to be kind of going to that same site, you might put in a blog if you've got one. If you do something with, I'm thinking that you do something with photos, perhaps. I think you might have mentioned that on a prior session. If you've got nature photos and you think that would kind of, show your love of what you do, I would just use whatever three URLs you've got that clearly, show you in a good light. Okay. If you've ever been recognized, there's a media mention, something like that. You could even just say other and say media mention, and then put in a link, the URL that goes to that story. Okay, so think about how you can creatively best use those. And then Twitter kind of has its own little home, so you don't have to use one of these main website features for that. You can just go up here, put in your Twitter if you've got one, and go from there. Okay, so anyway, hopefully those are kind of general housekeeping things that you can do on the fly. All right, and then as far as contact info too, just a few basics. Email. You want to put in email, obviously, that an employer could reach you at. And if you have more than one email, you get to choose one that's a primary. But if, maybe you've got Yahoo, you don't use that anymore, you can not make that the primary, not make that the main one that's visible, but still leave it on there so that if somebody's trying to connect with you, for instance, if you've ever had this experience where LinkedIn will say, how do you know this person? And you're not coworkers, you weren't alumni, you didn't do business with this person. The other choice is friend or other, and then you're prompted to give the email of that person to kind of prove a relationship. If somebody's got an old email of yours, you want to make sure that that doesn't deny them the access. So by listing all of your emails and choosing the one that's primary that you want to be outward facing, I'm not saying you're doing anything wrong with that. It's just kind of I'm giving you some background on email and how that might work. Okay. So anyway, I think that looks really good. All right. The next thing I notice is it's actually noticed because it's absent is a summary. I don't think I'm missing the summary. I just don't think it's here. LinkedIn gives you a very large amount of real estate available to do what's called a summary. And since Tacy doesn't have one, let me see if I can go to, let's try Roseanne. We barely looked at your stuff. Let's look at this and see if you've got it. Okay, you've got a little bit of a summary here. We're going to come back to Roseanne. Here's what I mean. I enjoy communications and the creativity of website page design, motivational speaking, writing, decorating, sewing, gardening, nutritional information, holistic healing, activism. I would love to turn my volunteer work into income streams if possible. Okay, we're going to come back to that. But I'm glad you have one, so bonus points for having one. Let's check out Tracy Trout. I know she's been through some of my more extensive LinkedIn training, so I'm thinking she's probably got this. Okay. She's got a little bit longer summary. Tracy's a graduate of Indiana University, where she received her BA in Psychology, an AA in Women and Gender Studies. She received her Master's of Science in Clinical Mental Health Counseling, specializing in addictions treatment from Indiana University Northwest. Further, she's a graduate of the Institute of Innovative Leadership in Leadership Northwest Indiana. She served on the advisory committee for Day Spring Women's Center in Valparaiso, is a member of Indiana University's Northwest Alumni Association, the American Counseling Association, Indiana Counseling Association, NAADAC, and serves as board of directors for the Porter County Substance Abuse Council. Tracy is fast becoming a sought-after presenter, speaker, and group facilitator on topics related to addiction and recovery. Tracy is passionate and dedicated for nonprofit small business success and collaboration, addiction and recovery, community mental health, and eradicating poverty specialties. And then she's got this kind of nicely formatted piece, which, by the way, I don't think you can still do in LinkedIn. So what you can do to get these little formatting bullets and that kind of thing is to actually type it first in Word, put in the bullets, put it, get it looking however you want, and then paste it in, and then you'll capture that formatting. So I think that's really, really nice. If a little bit, maybe formal, I kind of see, Tracy standing in front of a large group of audience and somebody, announcing her and using this as a handy bio to, to say, "Oh, we welcome our keynote speaker, Tracy Trout," and then this. So honestly, like, that has come in very handy for me. I have had people use my LinkedIn instead of asking me for a bio when I'm in that very, very situation. And it certainly is handy. Mine is not written in such a style, so sometimes that's a little bit unfortunate that that's what they've used. But Tracy, I think, works, kind of perfectly for that. And it just makes her seem super focused and kind of builds, a whole story around, why is she the person that should be your speaker, that should be your go-to person. Okay, so I think that's a really nice job. Again, it's a little bit more formal in third person, but it's ready to go. And I think for what Tracy does, that's probably a great fit. Okay, I'm just going to show, Tracy's saying, haha, me focused. Yeah, girlfriend, you look extremely focused. I'd say, I know you've done some other things, but the key is on LinkedIn is it's not a place to necessarily regurgitate, every single little thing that you've ever done, but what do you want to be known for now? And kind of letting that information bubble up to the surface and make it easy for somebody to see what it is, that you do and what you want to be known for. So I think that summary actually does that really, really, really well. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to my own profile just to give you an example of something completely different. It's I'm not saying it's the right way to do it, but it's, I've kind of played with it over time. I make changes periodically. You can see I still don't have a background photo, but hey, profile strength, all-star, woohoo. So, you definitely want to get your profile rank. LinkedIn will give you some feedback and tell you how they think you're doing. They're not going to necessarily go into how usable is it, how findable are you. They're just going to say, great, you've got all the fields fit in. So you still need to kind of, or filled in, excuse me. So you still need to kind of go through these, critical decisions like we're doing. So, my LinkedIn profile, this sometimes, again, has been unfortunate when somebody's used this to announce me as a speaker because it sounds a little hippy-dippy. And I don't mind because that's who I am. But I've been trying to blend, my social media stuff with my environmental work, and I'm probably going to need to update this again after next week when I launch my new brand because I think I'm finally getting there to the synthesis. So I don't want to go too far down on what I've got here. It'll probably be different soon. But I say it in first person. I kind of treat this as like, hello, welcome to my LinkedIn profile. Here's who I am. Here's what's on my mind. Similar to what Roseanne said about, her interests. She kind of had, who am I? Who am I as a person? Not just let me repeat every single job I've had, but, Tracy said what she's passionate about. I talk about, I think about sustainability a lot. What makes me tick, da-da-da, specialties, again, the bullet points. So, use this basically just as a text, narrative to let people read about you, get involved in your story, the story of you, not just, again, going back through your jobs and saying, first I worked here, then I did this. They can get to that. They can scroll down and read the rest. This is really just, again, about why did you take the path that you have taken? What did you learn from it? What makes you the unique person to do what it is that you're seeking to do today based on your past experience? And how does that square with really what makes you tick? What's your passion? So you definitely want to use that real estate to the best of your abilities, okay? Because without that, people are kind of forced to just go down piecemeal and go, okay, well, she did this project, she did this volunteer work, she did this thing, she's interested in this, but it doesn't really say why. Why did you do all these different things? I'm kind of thinking, just because I know Tacy a little bit, and looking at what she's written in her professional headline about seeking full-time year-round employment, is perhaps that hasn't been her experience before. She's taken jobs based on what she's passionate about, but they maybe haven't been able to sustain her year-round and long-term, okay? Because I can see, some of these things maybe are a little bit shorter. She's been a board member. She's been, a member in an association, Park Guide, 9 months, board member, newsletter editor, 1 year, 7 months, Park Guide interpretation, 2 years, 5 months. So definitely some longer term, but, not years and years and years and years. Like, okay, that looks like the longest one is this tutor. So what I would imagine for her is just, I've spent my entire life collecting, jewels of interpretive, natural interpretation experience, and, now here's what I've put into my whole package that I want to, build a long-term, relationship with an organization that would value having this expertise, in-house, and, I'm not saying this very well, but kind of go deep with one brand. Because you definitely look focused. It's just, you probably by circumstance have not been offered that, again, long-term opportunity. So they're going to have what they have, available. They can't really make the job to fit you, but, you certainly can tell people what it is that you're looking for or not. So my question, too, is by putting, the full-time, would you just be closing the door for somebody hiring you as a consultant, or do you not even want to go there, or would you go there, for a season while you're looking for the dream job? So is this helping you be more choosy, or is this cutting people off before they reach out to you? And you can answer that question based on however you would like, obviously. But the other thing I was thinking, Tacey, is I'm wondering, are you doing any kind of freelance thing? Are you doing anything I talked about somebody else I think that we both know and asked, couldn't you do just walks or hikes at the Indiana Dunes? I would think that there would be people that are coming in for the time that don't want to go on the big group experience, and just wait for whoever's available at the Dunes Nature Center. They do a great job, but, would somebody who's only in town, let's say from Australia or whatever, could they, reach out to a pro like you and hire you to go with their family or with their group? And I've heard that it's difficult to accept payment when you're going to, a national park or state park, because, they basically don't want people charging to go to the park. That's not quite right. But if you were, kind of combining it with an off-site, thing on your own turf, and you charged for that and then added the hike as a value added, something like that. I just wonder, can you fulfill your passions being a freelancer? Is there a way to even create the job that you desire instead of waiting for that to come along? I know that's not for the faint of heart, and some people really, really, just don't want to be in business for themselves. But I'm wondering, is your experience that you've had, being employed here, there, and seasonally at different parks, kind of part and parcel, for this type of profession, or is that worth looking at? To that end, just to see, what's available in that space, I'm going to show you a tool here called the Advanced Search tool, and think of this as the opposite, of you. This is somebody who is potentially looking for you, and I did have a success story just a few weeks ago. There was a woman who was in this class, Foy. Let me just see if I can find her message real fast. She made some quick updates to her LinkedIn profile. She was a stay-at-home mom and kind of trying to re-enter the job space. Always kind of interesting when I'm trying to find a message here in short order. Sorry about that. But in any case, she ended up getting an offer of, I don't know if it was full-time employment, but she got, let me just do this. Here we go. That's great. Okay, here's what she did. She said, hey, I just got a call about working with some local farmers to bring their produce to school lunches. It was mentioned that my new LinkedIn profile was why I was contacted. It's working. Awesome. That's such great news. So we literally had just done these LinkedIn updates, I think 3-4 days prior to her getting this call, and farmers were on LinkedIn looking for her expertise. All right, so I'm just going to pretend like I'm that farmer, and I'm looking for Foy, but I don't yet know Foy, okay? So let's just say I'm looking for, local food, CSA, and, I have no idea what they put in, but probably they'd want it to be located near their location. So I'm going to go ahead and put in where I know she lives. And I want to see, if she would come up based on my search. So the reason I'm showing you this is begin with the end in mind, okay? Think about the person that would value hiring you and how easy are you for them to find? Okay, you might want to kind of go through this exercise and see if you're really telling the story as well as you think you are. If you're not findable or you don't show up in the top results, then you might need to make some changes. All right, so within my own network, which includes level 1 connections, meaning people I'm directly connected to, they show up with a little first next to their name. Second connections, third connections, and group members, I only have 2 people, Foy in my first level and somebody else that I don't know very well. I don't know her at all, actually. She's a 3rd level connection, but that I could reach out to her. I could find her based on her just being in my network and find how we connect. But Foy's out there, and so, horticulturist using my knowledge to grow, eat, and preserve the harvest. So she's a horticulturist, but she's saying how she likes to apply her specific knowledge. If I was a farmer, I would think, well, that's great. She kind of understands me. She's about preserving the harvest. She probably might get me a little bit more than somebody else. And she's got a picture of her. Again, here she is with a bunch of tomatoes. It looks like fresh basil. She's not just talking about it. She's doing it, okay? And she's got a nice picture background that kind of fits with her horticulture, theme. So I think that's pretty nicely branded, and she rewrote her summary. So let's just see what's worked recently. A trained public garden horticulturist, I'm now focusing on local CSA and farmers market producers in Northeast Indiana. I have a healthy home garden and volunteer at several small farms in exchange for organic produce. I also preserve the harvest by canning, freezing, and dehydrating. For the last couple of years, I've put by a significant portion of my family's food. In 2015, I hope to grow our work in exchange for all of our food. I have a new website in the works, hopefully up and running by March. In the meantime, you can follow my adventures in growing, eating, and preserving food on my blog, Garden, Cook, Write, Repeat, and she's got the URL for that, and on the accompanying Facebook page, and she's got that too. I'm always on the lookout for like-minded folks to learn from or work with on their own homegrown journey. So I really like how how could that farmer not feel welcome when they showed up here on her profile? It's, here's where I've been, here's what I'm doing now, here's where I want to go. So they can immediately kind of opt in and say, if I pick up the phone to call her, my call is likely to be well received, okay? And so only then, I think after this is a match, do you get drawn in and to say, does her background support that? Does she have the credentials? I mean, don't get me wrong, those are important, and I do want to know, does this person actually know what she's talking about? And I can see, yes, she was a horticulturist, she was in Peace Corps, so maybe she's kind of got, some social justice or, travel, whatever. But, everything she's done has been pretty focused, master gardener, great, great, great. And all of that stuff is wonderful, but I really think that probably what would speak to me the most is this headline right here in this summary. So hopefully you can see how important that is, just from, a heart connection and a brain connection to feel like you're on the same page. But I want to point out the other reason why she ranks so highly, besides being first, within my network, is that using the summary area gives you a lot of different real estate or room to spread out your keywords. Like she was able to mention food, 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 local CSA. Okay, so the more times that your profile matches on those keywords, the higher that you're going to show up in search results. Now, granted, this was a fairly tight radius around North Manchester, Indiana for a fairly specific thing, but let's just say that I'm hiring for a naturalist. So I'm going to go in and now pretend that I'm looking for Tacey. I'm going to go ahead and put it, or not naturalist, oh boy, help me out here, Tacey. I don't want to go back to your profile. Tell me interpretive, is it natural interpreter? Oh, I got to get this right. Okay, I'm looking for a clue in the chat area. If not, I'm just going to go ahead and interpretive naturalist. Thank you very much. Okay, interpretive naturalist. All right, and I think you're still looking near Northwest Indiana, or are you willing to go anywhere? I'm just going to kind of, I'm going to make it 50 miles within here. Tour guide misspelled. Okay, interpretive naturalist, I spelled wrong. Okay, interpretive. Thank you. There we go. Good to have a gang. Okay, so she said she would go anywhere in the U.S. So I'm going to just leave, U.S. open, and let's go here. Okay, so I do know Brad Baumgardner. He's not a first-level connection. Probably could reach out to him and get connected. But this is interesting that when I put in interpretive naturalist, and although Tacey is on this call, and she's attending my workshop, she's not showing up as a first, result. Generally, the first level connections show up a little bit higher than second or third. So what that tells me is by you introducing that verbiage in more than one place, that would help you automatically, pop to the closer to the top of this list. There are 794 results for interpretive naturalist if I, don't limit it geographically. So, you need something to kind of stand out from the rest, okay? And by the way, this is how your professional headline plays in to how you show up in search results. This is kind of almost like the Twitter bio, a little bit shortened version of that, but Park Interpretive Naturalist at, Indiana Department of Natural Resources, okay, Interpretive Naturalist with such and such. So, by fact that you would show up saying that you're looking for a position, I think would help you, stand out. So, yeah, and Charlotte's mentioning that those are people who already have jobs doing that. Well, it should be kind of everybody doing that, okay? I'm not going to say it's cause and effect. That's why they have the job. I'm sure that's not quite exactly true. But there's no cost to use these words more frequently. You've got the space, so I'm just telling you how you can rise to the top of that pool, okay? If I was putting in here seeking employment or something like that, I would not be surprised if LinkedIn, adds a thing that allows people to check, are you looking for, a job or not, and make that part of how you can search. But, I just kind of chose the verbiage that I thought of, seeking employment, and still I'm not seeing Tacey. So all I'm saying is I think you don't just have to say it one time within your LinkedIn profile. You want to basically spell it out a couple of different ways. And for those of you that are writers, that might seem like, oh, why am I being redundant? Well, you're being redundant not necessarily because you think that your reader, is an idiot or didn't catch it the first time, but if you don't say it more than once, it's kind of hard for LinkedIn to rank your profile appropriately and know that that's a key point, of your profile, okay? So not even making it to the first page, which kind of surprises me. So play with that, see what you can do to just kind of, put that in a little bit more strongly. Let's go back to Tacey's again. And really, this is the best way I can think of to help you be found, is just to search. Search for yourself using the criteria that you expect your potential employer would be using, or have other people do it like I'm doing for you now, okay? So currently in market for, maybe you would want to say, and seeking full-time year-round employment, because I just didn't think of putting in market for when I was doing the search. So you could even try it a couple of different ways. Once you put your summary there, you can tell more about it. You've also got space here to expand upon each of these different projects that you did. It's great that you've got this was an exhilarating chance to speak about my passions. That's great. But why don't you just go ahead and say what they are? If people don't know about INPAWS, you could say native plants and wildflowers, something like that. Again, you're doing this kind of to make it easy for a first-time visitor to know what you're about and not have to drill down and find out what is INPAWS. If I'm in California, I may have no reference, for INPAWS. So, just think about that. All right, but other than that, I think you're doing great. You've got these things fleshed out a little bit more. So let's go ahead and move on. I want to see if I've got any additional questions. Lisa Harris mentions that there is a job search function, and there definitely is. What I'm looking for during this workshop is, what can you do to attract eyeballs, not necessarily how to use LinkedIn to find that job. But there are definitely people out there doing that workshop, and I would encourage you to, to take a look at that or just Google it. Probably LinkedIn has a good focus on that. Okay. So let's go ahead and look at, I'm going to go back to Tracy for now because I know she has recently left, full-time work and is doing counseling on her own. So, all right. So addiction and recovery counseling, I think that's great. That's really nice just to put that out there. Since you've got about 2.5 lines of text that you can use, Tracy, I would think maybe you want to expand upon that a little bit and even say, let's see, speaker, what else do you have down here? You had okay, training, public speaking, addiction treatment, relationship building. I wouldn't, just simply take everything that you've got down here in your, your specialties, but maybe you could expand upon this, or sometimes I've seen people use this to define where they work geographically. I know one communications coach that some of you might know, Keela Parkinson. She's got a young child, and she really values meeting with people in person. So she intentionally has used the space to say, I'm a communication coach in the greater Chicagoland area in Northwest Indiana. So if you don't travel or you don't have a way to deliver your goods, beyond a certain geography, again, this would help your user when they get here to know if you're somebody that they can work with or not. Okay, so if you're in California but you work anywhere, great. That would be a chance to spell that out if you really don't want to expand upon what you do professionally. But just play around with it too. Using that advanced search, you can kind of go and look at what is your quote-unquote competition doing, and sometimes you can get some great ideas. So I don't have any, real great words of wisdom on what else should go here, but just make sure that it's representing you in the fullest way possible. One way that you might think about doing that rather than spelling it out, in long sentences, is to use some kind of little symbol to kind of separate mini titles, as I call them. I've kind of got one fun title. I'm calling myself now the CEO, Chief Enlightenment Officer. I don't really expect anybody's going to be looking for a Chief Enlightenment Officer, but I kind of feel like if they're my people, they'll get a kick out of that, or they'll want to, click further, and that'll set me apart from other social media coaches that aren't really concerned about, enlightenment. So I play with that. But I've used this little vertical line, which on my keyboard is located just above the Enter key, by holding the Shift key. And so with that, I don't have to waste a lot of characters on and, the, in, connecting words. I can just kind of separate them, and it's a pretty clean way to do it. So if that works for you, it's just one idea. So let's go back to Tracy's. Okay. And so she's got multiple emails, great. So that kind of, goes to the point that I mentioned before, that, you want to make sure that if I've still got an old email for you, will it be forwarded to you if I enter that that's the email I've got for Tracy? Great. But you just make one of these your primary, and you can tell LinkedIn which one that is. So she's got website. Wow, I didn't even know you can have this many websites. That's interesting. Okay. I thought you were limited to 3, but I'm going to have to check that out. So she's got Porter County Family. I always forget what that stood for, but that was one of her past employers. Trout Photography. Now, I'm a little curious about that one. I didn't know if that was you or if that was just your husband, Fred. But, she's got all the different things that she's kind of into. Twitter. Let's see, is this Twitter? Yeah, I might kind of lose the one that's for Twitter since you've got Twitter up here. That might make sense. Company website. Let's just see what that is. Recovery Connection, PC.org. Okay. Good. I like that you've got these all filled out. I'm wondering if these are, the ones you really, really want for people to know you for. In your case, and I don't think I've ever said this before, but you might want to actually narrow it down and just put the ones that, are most indicative of what you do. Just because you don't want people to get lost in all the choices and just kind of see where they can showcase your work and what you're about. And again, rather than putting other, I probably would do as you've done with these other ones, and instead of company website, choose other, but then type in what does that actually go to. If I recall, I think that one went to, this other went to Google+. So you could say Tracy on Google+, something like that. All right. But you've got your phone number in there, great. You've got your address in there. Is that address still good for you? I'm not sure. You can make birthday either visible or non-visible. If you're in job search mode, I hate to say it, but I would probably make that not visible just to kind of take that factor out of things. I'm connected to Tracy, so she might have made it only visible to her network. I frankly don't even remember what I've done. I'm working on my own. I don't really care who knows my age, but I just think it's a little unfortunate in the job search mode. Although it's illegal, sometimes people can be ageist, so why not just take that off, Okay, so she's got experience, Trout 0.0, her current venture, which she has been doing for, a long time, but now is doing that primarily under the direction of and in practice with Dr. Rachel Mimi. I think that's how you say her name. Tracy Trout provides counseling services to individuals, families, and groups. Primary focus of her practice is addiction and recovery. Tracy uses a trauma-informed model to assist clients with anxiety, depression, and personality issues as well. And then the email that's associated with that account. Okay, great. I think she's done a really nice job of explaining, what does she do right now. It's a subset of her summary and how she works in general, but it's like this is current, this is through, present. She's done it a long time. Here's what she does. This last one that she did for a year and a month, responsible for programming and enhancement of Recovery Connections, addiction recovery support services, da-da-da-da-da. Again, she's got the bullet points, which you can do in Word if you want to bring in, bullet points and have the formatting look, consistent. But I think, what you've got here is just great. Really nice job. And I like how she's done some things like key achievements, which are more traditionally resume type things, but also just nice prose that people could read and, what they would care about. So to me, that's really great. Another key thing that she's got is recommendations. Within LinkedIn, there are both recommendations and there are endorsements. Endorsements are quite a bit easier to give. You see the opportunity for those when you log on. Let me just go here. Wow, I didn't even know you had something going with the University of Cincinnati. I used to live in Cincinnati. That's cool. See the things you can find out about your friends when you go on LinkedIn. Okay, so if I hit the Home tab, usually when I log on, it'll kind of prompt me to say, hey, these people have new connections, people you may know. People you may know, by the way, is just LinkedIn looking through who of your connections knows each other and kind of making some conclusions that perhaps that you might know those same people as well. So that's all fine and dandy. All right. Right now, when I want it to come up, it's not coming up for me. But usually, every now and then, I'm kind of prompted to say, do you want to give endorsements to this person? Does Tracy really know about addictions counseling? I don't know what their algorithm is for when they pop that up, but they make endorsements really easy to do. And I'd say if you have more time on your hands right now, this is kind of a goodwill thing you can do, is go give other people endorsements, or you can go give other people recommendations. Again, if they're heartfelt and they're relevant, by doing that, you kind of bring yourself into their awareness, and if they've got something that they could potentially say about you, then that just kind of opens the door for them to reciprocate. It's a little awkward if they've done work for you as a vendor or provided you a service and you have not done that. I think it's important to kind of understand who is who is appropriate, to ask for recommendations if you'd like. But I think if I was looking for a social media coach and all right, I care or I don't about enlightenment, but then does this person know what she's doing? Seeing 29 recommendations, and thank you, one of these was from Tracy, so I appreciate that, Tracy. Seeing these recommendations might just give me the edge to say, hey, she didn't sprout up this year and she's untested. Like, these people have stepped up and said, here's what I got out of her her talk or her going through her workshop. So it just kind of helps round out the credibility. So think about how you might be able to do that for somebody else, and then also you can ask for those recommendations as well. The way that you do that, by the way, let me think if I can find this. It seems like LinkedIn continually keeps moving things around. Drives me a little batty. But, oh dear. Okay. Well, you know what? I hate to do this, but to ask for recommendation on LinkedIn. Okay, you can see I've searched for this before, and so have others. Yeah, I think they have buried it a little bit. It used to be in the Connections tab, and now it's not entirely obvious to me how to find that. But luckily, LinkedIn does have a good LinkedIn Help Center, and so they've got, the step-by-step things that you do, and you can either follow these directions or you can just click the Ask for Recommendations, and it takes you right there. So I hate to say it, but that's what I've done generally to get there. So you can kind of follow which ones have been received, which ones are given, and which ones you want to give. So if you want to ask your connection to recommend you, you can say, well, I'm going to be doing this, I'm asking for my social media coach, and hey, what the heck? I'm going to use this for my own good. All right. I'm going to ask some of you if you thought this was helpful for you today. If not, that's okay too. No hard feelings. But Charlotte, I don't even know if you're on here. You're not popping up for me. Okay. Lisa, we're connected. Yes. Okay. And Roseanne. Why not? Okay. Again, no pressure. I'm kind of doing this just to demonstrate how you would do it. And then going back, when you put in your relationship, basically that information is going to be attached to the recommendation that comes through. So I haven't reported to Tacey. I haven't managed her. Yeah, it's not exactly perfect. I would say probably worked with her in the same group, like we did kind of work together in 219 Green Connect. Not sure if she's exactly been my client. I think maybe you've been my client. I can't exactly recall. I'm just going to say we'll go with the 219 Green Connect. And then Lisa, I'm going to say you've been a client of mine. You know what, Tacey, you have been a client of mine too, because you did contribute for the this work that we're doing. So I'm going to just go ahead and do that. I think it's going to make it a little simpler. And then I'll just say, well, I'm not sure exactly what corresponding, I think you're doing this currently. This almost really doesn't matter, frankly. It's just sometimes it's going to be more important than others. I'm going to say this is what Lisa's doing now. Relationship, it's kind of funny. I feel like you guys are all kind of friends. I guess you've been a client. Yeah, student, my social media coach. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and put that. All right, and so again, don't sweat it if this doesn't feel natural for you. I'm just kind of doing this as a demo. Oh, Roseanne has already given me one. Thank you very much, Roseanne. Sorry about that I forgot. So how can I take you off? Well, you know what? I'm not going to worry about it right now. But anyway, that's how you would do it. Maybe you want to do it one at a time so that you don't run into that, what I just did, trying to kind of batch it and then doing that. The other thing, too, that if you've got something in mind that you feel like you haven't exactly, for whatever reason, been recognized in a particular area of your expertise, but you would like to build more awareness about that, sometimes you can help people out by explaining that in the recommendation. You could say, although I'm a farmer, I really want to let people know that I'm available to do community outreach. And since we work together in that capacity, do you think you could mention how well I did, as a public speaker or whatever? Because, usually what you're putting out there that you do well and that others are recommending you for is kind of likely to what you might get more inquiries about, right? So when I was trying to get more keynote speaking engagements, I specifically asked the people who were doing that or who had hired me in that capacity to make those kind of bubble up and rise to the top. Again, you don't have to get quite that tricky about it, but if you want to, that's one way to do it. Another way is, sometimes you get a nice email, like I got a message from Foy that said, hey, this is working, the one I showed you before. I might just copy and paste that into this right here. I could say, Foy, I was really glad that you shared with me your LinkedIn was working. Would you be willing to just give a brief recommendation that I know how to teach people to use LinkedIn? And when you remind them of what they've already said, they can almost just copy and paste it and go from there. It's not a lot of work. She said it to me before, but she said it in a private way. It was like a private Facebook message. And think about how you can do that too. Like if there's something that you want to say that's nice about somebody, put it out there in the most public way possible so that that piece of information, your recommendation can be used to help, build them up as an expert in that area. So think about what you want, but also think about what you can do for others, and it tends to kind of come back to you in that same way. So I know we started just a few minutes late. If you guys have additional questions, I can definitely stay past the top of the hour a little bit. If that's of interest, just let me know. But you guys are being a little bit quiet. I'm not seeing a lot more questions. Okay, Tacey said she's going to get some of these changes done later. Great. And Kobe's asking, would it be okay to put a website of a former employer or website that she admined? I think so. Maybe under the other tag you could just say former corporate website. I don't know that there's enough space for quite all of that, but yeah, okay. And then Charlotte said, are there any concerns about putting all this personal information online? I would say LinkedIn is really among the websites where you're sharing the least amount of personal information. It's kind of stuff that you would have on a resume, but it's got like much more context. I mean, number one, it's the context because of your own particular network. It's kind of like that 6 degrees of separation, except it's 3 degrees of separation. I could kind of pick anybody. I can't think of somebody now. Well, Brad Baumgarten. I'm not connected to him. I kind of know him, whatever reason, just haven't reached out to him. But if I wanted to, now I can't think of, probably spelling his name wrong. All right, that's okay. I don't need to connect with Brad. But if I didn't know Brad all that well and I wanted to connect with him, I could actually look up somebody that was a second-level connection, find out, now let me use somebody over here. I have no idea who Richard Manalis is, but it's suggesting that we may want to connect because we've got 14 mutual connections. So LinkedIn is going to do their part to tell me how we might connect, and I can see that here are several connections that could introduce me: Susie Vance, David from Third Coast Spice, Jeff Benson, Sasha Burns. So a lot of cool people that I know, artists and farmers and photographers, and just kind of neat people. Lubeznik Center. So it's like just based on who we know in common, it almost does make me want to reach out and connect with him. I don't really have a compelling reason to do so, but seeing artists and then biology in the background, I'm a little bit interested. So by the way, Rich would probably get a heads up that said people who have recently viewed your profile, he could see that Kathy Sipple had recently viewed his profile, and if he in turn, clicked on mine and wanted to visit mine to reciprocate, maybe he would say, oh, I've heard of her from Janet Block, or I've heard of her from Susie Vance, and they mentioned that I should connect with her. Maybe that my looking at his profile actually would nudge him to, reach out and connect with me. So spending time in the space, if you don't do this already, it doesn't take a lot of care and feeding, but I would say just getting in here and doing a little bit of, network diving, like seeing who do you know that knows somebody and reaching out to make that extra connection. The inbound marketing, trying to optimize your profile for search is certainly great, and certainly do that because it doesn't take a whole lot of time and effort. You can probably knock that out in the course of a couple hours. But beyond that, do some exploration. See who it is you want to meet. Who is the person, what's the title of the person that would hire you, either as a consultant or for a full-time job, and do some travel, look around and see who they are and what's making them tick. See if there's some groups that they're in that you could perhaps join, and if that would provide entree, if you've got some shared connections. I just Tuesday went to the South Shore Clean Cities annual meeting and lunch, and I came home with about, a dozen business cards. And even before I left the event, I was asking people on the exhibitor floor, hey, are you open to a LinkedIn connection? Would you connect with me? This one young kid from IUN, Indiana University Northwest, he had written a white paper on sustainable practices at a local hospital or whatever. I was just so impressed by him. I wanted to interview him on my podcast. He had a smartphone out. He's like, you'll have a LinkedIn request waiting for you to connect with me by the time you get back. So he actually took out a smartphone, instituted that connection, right while we were talking. So of course he's like 20 or 21. I don't even do that. I'm not that good. But I took those cards back, and instead of just adding them to the stack that already exists, on my desk, what I did was I just looked those people up and I sent them a quick note. Hey, just met you today at the South Shore Clean Cities lunch. I'd like to continue the conversation we started. Here's when I'm available. Here's my phone number. Give me a direct call or let's set something up. So just be careful that you use every opportunity in real life to kind of blend this with your online life. It's not like one exists outside of the other. Ideally, you're continually weaving this beautiful tapestry of relationships, and it just gets richer and richer when you've got people that are really drawn to you for your own passions. They tend to really be attracted to other people like that. And the world gets much smaller, and I think, really kind of beautiful. So there's my little airy-fairy way to end the day on LinkedIn, which again, I feel like it kind of gets, short shrift because it just looks like, it's a resume, but it's really so much more than that. Okay, and then Charlotte's asked, will anyone whose profile you view know you viewed it? You can change your settings, actually. So let me just quickly show you how to do that. You go up to your little picture in the upper right-hand corner. You go to Privacy and Settings, Manage. And, okay, I got kicked out already? Maybe it just wants me to, all right. Well, you're going to have to take my word for it. That's where you can do it. I'm not sure why it's making me change that or sign back in just to get to it. But if you go to privacy settings, you basically can, I'm going to just go ahead and save password. Let's try this again. All right, something is a little bit messy with my login. I'm obviously in, but I'm not able to change privacy settings right this second. I'm 99% sure that that thing can be changed under privacy and settings, and you can say, when I'm doing search, make me anonymous or just, show my professional title. You can kind of let as much out there as you'd like. But I kind of see it as, a little nudge. I don't want to be secretive about it. If that's kind of flattering for them to think that, I think they're interesting and I was on their LinkedIn profile, it's, I think that's fine. But if you're checking out competition, then maybe you do want to turn the privacy settings on, okay? Yeah, and Tacey's saying it's trying to verify you before letting you change privacy settings. Yeah, I get that, but I saved my password and it's not letting me re-log in. So anyway, I can't demo that, but I've done it before. I usually just let people see what I'm doing. And I have actually had requests to connect based on, hey, I saw that you had visited my LinkedIn profile. I'm wondering, is there something I can do for you? Da 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 da. Some people are kind of all over that. So any other remaining questions? We're about 5 after, and I started a little late, so I'm ending a little bit late. I will be processing this video, and I do want to tell you one change that I made yesterday based on some of your questions and just in the spirit of trying to improve my own stuff, as I'm recommending that you make improvements to your own. If you go to the facebook.com My Social Media Coach page, what I changed my call to action to instead is watch video. And so if you now click on watch video call to action and go to link, it will actually take you to our most current videos that I'm doing here this week and last, okay? So you can go to, playlist, and you can look at improving your online presence. You can look at the other ones that I've done. And, based on your suggestions to make that more easy to find, that's what I've done. So you can go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And maybe you want to think about what call to action you would try for yourself. Okay, so very cool. Thanks a lot, and yeah, I hope we can do a YouTube segment. I honestly don't feel like I'm probably the very best teacher on it right now, but I'm always willing to show you what I've learned, and I love having a reason to learn more myself. So if that's something that would be of interest, we'll add that to the mix. All right, see you back tomorrow, where we're going to wrap things up talking about email and how that actually can integrate quite well with your online presence. And Charlotte's made a request for Google+, so we can definitely fit that in a little bit. And if you have any remaining questions on something we've covered or want to include something different, it's going to be kind of our catch-all. I also would love to hear from you if you learn something that you're going to do differently. I kind of take Friday, the last day, to open up the mic and have some sharing. So if that's something you'd like to do, just let me know and I'll put you on. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and we'll see you tomorrow. Charlotte's asking about where should you ask questions. I'm not sure what you mean by that. If it's within the context of the, you can write questions on the Facebook event page if it is about this event. For right now, I think that's what we're talking about. Or you can, not CoThrive yet. We're going to be launching CoThrive next week, and you'll be able to do that from there very soon. But if it's a question about what we're talking about during this week, please use Facebook just for now. That would be fine. And you can email me, Charlotte. That's fine. Don't worry about it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end. And thanks so much for showing up today again, and I look forward to having you back tomorrow. Take care.